what is the difference between aardvarks and anteaters? If you've ever seen an aardvark and an anteater, you know they both look like weird, long-nosed creatures that love eating ants. It's easy to mix them up. After all, both have snouts like tubes and sticky tongues for slurping up bugs by the thousands. You might even wonder, are they cousins? Do they live together? And most importantly, what's the difference between an aardvark and an anteater? So let's find out. First off, an aardvark and an anteater would never bump into each other in the wild because they live on completely different continents. Aardvarks roam the grasslands and bushlands of sub-Saharan Africa, from savannas to woodlands. In fact, the name aardvark comes from Afrikaans and means earth pig, probably because this creature has a pig-like body and loves to dig in the earth. On the other hand, anteaters are found far away in Central and South America, in places like the Amazon rainforest, grasslands, and dry tropical forests. They're separated by an ocean and millions of years of evolution, so these two animals are truly worlds apart. If you see long-nosed tracks in the African sand, it's an aardvark. If you see them in the Amazon mud, it's an anteater. Even though aardvarks and anteaters look somewhat alike, they are not related at all, not even distant cousins. It's one of the coolest examples of copycat evolution, where two unrelated animals end up with similar tricks because they have the same lifestyle. Aardvarks stand in a class of their own, literally. An aardvark is the only species in its entire order, Tubulidentata. Surprisingly, an aardvark's closest relatives are not anteaters or anteater-like at all, but things like elephants, elephant shrews, and even tiny golden moles that also originally come from Africa. Meanwhile, anteaters belong to a completely different animal family. Anteaters are part of the Xenarthra group, along with creatures like sloths and armadillos. Millions of years ago, aardvarks and anteaters did have a common ancestor if you go back about 50 million years, but that's super distant. All the similarities they share, long snouts, sticky tongues, love of ants, are thanks to Mother Nature solving the same problem in two separate ways. It's a wonderful case of convergent evolution. So, if you saw these two side by side, how would you tell them apart? Let's start with appearance. An aardvark looks a bit like a mashup of different animals. It has the stocky body of a pig, big rabbit-like ears, a long snout, and a thick tail that reminds you of a kangaroo's tail. Its skin is kind of rough and sparsely covered with coarse hair, almost like a pig's skin with a few bristles. Its back is arched and it has relatively short, stubby legs. An anteater, especially the famous giant anteater, looks quite different. Anteaters have a slender, elongated body covered in dense, shaggy fur. The giant anteater sports a bushy tail that's almost as long as its body. They sometimes use that tail like a blanket to cover themselves when sleeping. Anteaters also have distinct coloring. For example, the giant anteater has a bold black and white diagonal stripe on its shoulder, whereas an aardvark is usually a pale brown or grayish color. And check out the snout. The aardvark's snout is long, but not nearly as long and thin as an anteater's. A giant anteater's head is basically one long tube, a long snout that makes its whole face, ending in a tiny opening for a mouth. Meanwhile, an aardvark has a wider mouth and nostrils that can close to keep out dust and bugs when digging. Lastly, notice the ears. Aardvarks have big pointed ears that stick up, but anteaters have much smaller ears that you might barely notice under all that fur. Looking down at their feet, you'll see some more differences. Aardvarks have 4 toes on the front and 5 on the back, each with a strong shovel-like claw. These claws look like a mix between a hoof and a spade, perfect for digging into rock-hard termite mounds. Anteaters, on the other hand, have sharp, long claws on their front paws, especially the giant anteater, whose claws can be up to 4 inches long. These are like hooked daggers for ripping into ants' nests or defending against enemies. Both of these animals are much bigger than you might think, but their build is different. An aardvark is heavy and chunky. It can weigh anywhere from 130 to 180 pounds when full grown. Its body length, not counting the tail, is around 3.5 to 4 feet, and the tail adds another 1.5 to 2 feet. So, nose to tail, it could be 5 or 6 feet long. Now, the giant anteater is a longer animal overall. From its snout to the tip of its huge tail, it can be 6 to 7 feet long, which surprises a lot of people. But it's not as heavy as an aardvark because it's built slimmer. A giant anteater usually weighs around 50 to 90 pounds. One way to guess who's who is when they are active. Aardvarks are nocturnal, true night owls. They spend the hot daylight hours snoozing in cool underground burrows and only come out after sunset to forage for food. Anteaters, in contrast, are mostly active in the daytime. A giant anteater might be seen during the morning or afternoon, snuffling around open grasslands or forest edges looking for anthills to snack on. They don't usually use burrows to sleep in. Instead, an anteater will find a nice hidden spot in the brush or tall grass, curl up, and often cover itself with its bushy tail like a blanket to nap. Both aardvarks and anteaters survive on a diet mainly of ants and termites, so they have some similar tools for the job, but there are cool differences here too. Both animals have long snouts and incredibly sticky tongues designed like nature's vacuum cleaners for insects. The giant anteater is the tongue champion. Its tongue can be up to 24 inches long. It keeps this long tongue rolled up coiled in its mouth when not using it, but when it finds a tasty anthill, out pops the skinny tongue, zapping up ants lightning fast. An aardvark's tongue is shorter, about half as long as the anteater's, but that's still pretty long and super useful for lapping up bugs. Both animals have sticky saliva that makes their tongues like flypaper. Ants stick to them and then, yum, they lick them up. They also both have snouts that work like vacuums, creating suction to suck in ants and termites once they rip open a nest. Now, here's a key difference inside the mouth: teeth. Anteaters have 0 teeth, not a single tooth in those long snouts. They don't chew their food at all. Instead, they mash the insects against the top of their mouth, which has hard ridges. They rely on a muscular stomach to grind up the ants with the help of swallowed sand and dirt. Their palate has tiny spines called papillae that help crush the bugs too. Aardvarks, however, do have teeth, but only back teeth, molars, and no front teeth like incisors or canines. Aardvark teeth are very unusual. They're thin, tube-shaped teeth that have no enamel and grow continuously throughout the aardvark's life. Why continuously? Well, when an aardvark is digging into termite mounds and gobbling bugs, it also ends up swallowing a lot of dirt and sand, which would wear down normal teeth really fast. What happens if something tries to eat them? In Africa, the aardvark has a few enemies to watch out for, including lions, leopards, hyenas, and pythons. Humans can be a threat too, though aardvarks are not easy to catch. Thanks to their powerful legs, an aardvark can dig incredibly fast. If threatened, an aardvark might suddenly dig straight down into the ground to escape, almost like it's diving into water, but in earth. They can also run in a zigzag pattern to confuse predators. If cornered, an aardvark can defend itself by slashing with its claws or even tail whipping. Its thick skin protects it a bit from bites. Those big ears likely help it detect predators early, so it can often sneak away before getting caught. In South and Central America, the giant anteater's main predators are big cats, like jaguars and pumas. But the anteater has a rather startling defense. It can rear up on its hind legs, balancing on its tail, and swipe with its huge claws. Those 4-inch claws can seriously hurt. There are tales of anteaters injuring or even killing predators in self-defense. A jaguar attacking an adult giant anteater could get slashed badly. Because of this, jaguars might think twice about taking on a full-grown giant anteater. They'd more likely target a young one. Anteaters also rely on camouflage. Their fur patterns help them blend into the dappled light of the forest or grass, and when curled up sleeping, they look like a pile of dead leaves or a termite mound. Now, if you ever get a chance to go to a zoo or watch a nature documentary, you'll be able to tell which one is the aardvark and which one is the anteater. Both are incredible creatures, perfectly designed for gobbling up insects in their own corners of the world.